My name is Louisa. I am 37 years old, and before I was married, my life was quiet in the best way. I worked in a small city office, 5 days a week, from morning until late afternoon. My job was simple. My days were predictable. In the evenings, I cooked for myself, read books, or walked slowly in the park near my apartment. I was not rich, but I was calm. I slept well at night. I smiled easily. I felt whole. Everything began to change the day I met George. We met at a small dinner party at a friend's house. I almost didn't go. I was tired that evening, and the weather was cold. But I went anyway, wearing a simple dress and a quiet smile. George was already there. He was taller than me, with kind eyes and a warm laugh. When the soup arrived cold, we laughed about it together. It was a small moment, but it felt natural. Easy. George talked to me first. I was shy, but he made me feel comfortable. He listened. He didn't rush me. When I spoke, he looked at me, not at his phone, not around the room. That night, when I went home, I realized something important. I felt safe. That feeling stayed with me. After a few weeks, we started dating. George was gentle. He called me every evening. He remembered small details about my day. When I felt unsure, he reassured me. When I laughed, he laughed with me. Being with him felt like resting after a long walk. One day, George told me about his family. He said he lived with his parents and his younger sister in a big house. He sounded proud. Soon after, he invited me to meet them. I prepared carefully. I bought flowers. I brought a cake. I wanted to make a good impression. When we arrived, the house was large and quiet. His mother smiled, but her eyes stayed serious. His father shook my hand politely. His sister barely looked at me. No one asked me many questions. No one laughed. The rooms felt cold, even though the house was warm. I told myself they were just quiet people. I told myself not to worry. On the way home, George held my hand and smiled. I smiled back. I chose to believe in the man beside me, not the silence behind us. At that moment, I had no idea. I didn't know that love could slowly turn into silence. The wedding arrived quietly, without the warmth I had imagined. There was no real celebration, no laughter filling the room. My parents smiled and tried to start conversations, but George's family remained distant, as if they were attending an obligation rather than a wedding. His mother wore a black dress. His sister left before the cake was cut. No one hugged me. No one said, "Welcome to the family." I told myself it didn't matter. I was marrying George, not his family. After the wedding, George suggested we move into his family's house. "It will save money," he said. "Just for a while." I hesitated, but I agreed. I wanted to stay close to him, and I believed marriage meant compromise. At first, I tried my best to belong. I woke up early every morning, made breakfast for everyone, cleaned the kitchen, washed the dishes, and helped his mother with the laundry. I wanted to show respect. I wanted them to like me. But no one ever said thank you. Soon, the work never stopped. His mother began giving me long lists: clean the floors, wash the windows, scrub the bathroom, iron clothes. I worked until my back ached and my hands burned, and when I finally finished, she would point to something small I had missed. George noticed, but only a little. "That's nice, Louisa," he said once. "You're good at helping." Helping. Not loving. Not caring. Just helping. His sister started asking for things too. Tea. Ironed dresses. Food brought to her room. She stayed in bed all day, scrolling on her phone, while I moved through the house like a shadow. She never said thank you. One night, I tried to talk to George. "I feel like a maid," I said quietly. "Not a wife." He sighed and said, "They just need time. Please be patient." So I waited. And nothing changed. I cooked every day. I washed clothes by hand. In winter, my fingers cracked from cold water. Once, I made corn soup. His mother tasted it, frowned, and said, "Too salty. You don't know how to cook," then poured it down the sink. I stood there in silence, holding back tears. Slowly, I stopped seeing my friends. I stopped going out. I stopped laughing. On weekends, George went out alone while I stayed home. His mother said, "A good wife stays at home and works." One morning, I looked at myself in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back at me. My eyes were tired. My smile was gone. I was still there, but I was disappearing little by little, and no one noticed. Not even the man who once made me feel safe. I did not notice the moment when love slowly turned into control. It did not happen in one day. It happened quietly, like dust settling on furniture you stop cleaning. One morning, I woke up and realized I was no longer a wife in that house. I was a pair of hands. I was a shadow that moved from room to room, cleaning, cooking, fixing things no one thanked me for. Every day followed the same pattern. Wake up early. Make tea and toast. Clean the kitchen. Wash clothes. Cook lunch. Clean again. If I sat down for even a moment, someone would find me. "Louisa, can you make tea?" "Louisa, the floor is dirty." "Louisa, iron this dress." And when I was tired, truly tired, his mother would look at me with cold eyes and say, "You are lazy." The word stayed with me. Lazy. As if my aching back and burning hands meant nothing. George watched all of this and said very little. When I tried to speak, he avoided my eyes. "My mother needs help," he said. "This is how families live." I wanted to ask him why only I was helping. Why only I was expected to disappear. But my voice felt small, and every time I spoke, it seemed to make things worse. Silence became easier than fighting. One afternoon his mother said, "A good wife stays at home and works." I smiled weakly and nodded, but something inside me broke. That night, I stood in front of the mirror for a long time. I searched my face, hoping to find the woman I used to be, the one who laughed easily, who had friends, who dreamed of a future filled with warmth. She was gone. In her place stood a woman with tired eyes and a quiet sadness she could not explain. I whispered to my reflection, "Where did you go?" A few days later, my cousin Phoebe called. "How is married life, Louisa?" she asked brightly. I opened my mouth to say, "It's good," like I always did. But this time, the words refused to come. My throat tightened. Tears filled my eyes. I told her everything. I told her how I worked all day, how no one thanked me, how George stayed silent, how I felt invisible in my own marriage. She listened without interrupting. Then she said softly, "Louisa, you are not their maid. You are George's wife." Her words hit me like a sudden light in a dark room. I had been waiting for permission to feel hurt. She gave it to me. That night, I didn't cook dinner. When George asked why, I said, "I'm tired." His mother looked at me and said, "Lazy women ruin families." Something rose inside me, fear, anger, courage, all mixed together. The next morning, she handed me a dress and said, "Wash this by hand." For the first time, I said, "No." The room went silent. Her face turned red. "This is my house," she shouted. "You cannot say no to me." My hands were shaking, but my voice was calm when I replied, "Then I will leave." George came running when he heard the noise. I packed a small bag while everyone watched. No one tried to stop me. I looked at George and realized something painful. Love should not make you smaller. Love should not silence you. As I walked out of the house, I finally understood the truth I had been avoiding for so long. Love that controls is not love. And I deserved more than survival. I deserved a life where I could breathe. Saying no felt terrifying. My hands were shaking, my heart was racing, but for the first time in a very long time, my voice belonged to me. I did not shout. I did not cry. I simply chose myself. I walked out of that house with a small bag and a heavy heart, not knowing exactly where I was going, only knowing that I could not stay. Phoebe opened the door before I even knocked. Her home felt different the moment I stepped inside. It was quiet, warm, and safe. No one asked me to cook. No one gave me a list of chores. I slept deeply for the first time in weeks. In the mornings, I drank tea slowly by the window. I laughed again. I remembered what it felt like to be human, not useful. Those few days did not fix everything, but they healed something inside me. They reminded me that peace should not feel like a reward, it should feel normal. On the third day, I called George. "We need to talk," I said. When he arrived, I looked at him carefully, as if I were seeing him for the first time. "I need to ask you something," I said. "Do you want a wife, or do you want a maid?" He tried to explain. He said it wasn't that simple. He said his family didn't mean harm. I listened, then shook my head. "It is that simple," I replied. "I will not live like that again." For the first time, George did not argue. He looked tired. "Honest," he said quietly, "I don't want to lose you." Then I said the words that mattered most. "If we stay together, we leave that house. We build a life where we share responsibility, respect, and silence is not used as control." I did not beg. I did not soften my words. I set a boundary and waited. George changed, not with promises, but with action. He searched for a small apartment every day. He made calls. He showed me listings. A week later, we found a tiny place with one bedroom and a small kitchen. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. When we moved, no one from his family said goodbye. I didn't look back. I held George's hand and stepped into a future that finally felt like mine. Our apartment was small. One bedroom. A narrow kitchen. A window that looked out onto a quiet street. But for the first time in my life, the space around me felt wide. I could breathe. I could sit without guilt. I could wake up without fear of being told what to do next. Freedom did not come from size or money. It came from respect. We unpacked together. George washed the cups while I folded clothes. We laughed when we couldn't find the forks. That night, I cooked pasta while he set the table. It wasn't perfect, but it was shared. And somehow, sharing made everything lighter. Love stopped feeling like work. It started feeling like partnership. Days passed, then weeks. George cleaned the floor. I took out the trash. Some days, I was tired. Some days, he was. We talked. We listened. Silence was no longer a weapon. It was simply peace. In the evenings, we walked in the park, holding hands like we did when we first met. I felt seen again. I felt chosen. One morning, I looked at myself in the mirror and smiled. My eyes were brighter. My shoulders were relaxed. I wore my favorite dress, not because someone approved, but because I wanted to. I realized something important then. I had not lost myself in marriage. I had only misplaced myself for a while. And I had found my way back. This home did not have expensive furniture or big rooms. But it had laughter. It had quiet mornings. It had love without control. I learned that choosing yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. And peace, real peace, is one of the deepest forms of love. If this story touched your heart, like it if you believe in healthy love. Share in the comments what lesson you took from Louisa's journey. And subscribe if you'd like to continue learning English through real-life stories that heal, inspire, and stay with you.